So the Planet Crafter is a game that's all about terraforming a planet. Basically, you are crafting a planet by making it more livable for other people to come there. But while this game does have similarities to other building and crafting games and even has a Subnautica-esque type vibe, there are certain mechanics in this game that are a little different from some other games. So for this video, I'm going to be going over the very basics of the game, the very basic mechanics. So if you are a brand new player to the game, or maybe even somebody who's been playing this for a while, hopefully you're going to get something out of this. Now, once again, terraforming is pretty much the theme of the game, both for the storyline aspect as well as unlocking new tech upgrades and buildables. Terraforming is done by increasing oxygen, heat, and pressure, which add to the overall terraformation index. Different buildables will increase these aspects in different ways, so really just follow the starter task because that will be the easiest way to get familiar with how terraforming works. As you progress further in the game, you will unlock biomass as an additional terraforming focus. Food, water, and oxygen are the three gauges in the lower left of your screen. The food gauge also acts as your health gauge, so when you take injuries such as fall damage, it will decrease. Your food gauge will drain at the slowest rate, while the oxygen gauge will drain the quickest. Your oxygen gauge is currently the only one of these that can be upgraded through the use of oxygen tank upgrades. Food items will, of course, replenish your food gauge, but by different amounts. Food is a premium item in the early game simply because you cannot grow any yet, so be cautious to not overuse the space food you find at the start. Once you unlock the food grower, you can make use of the eggplant, squash, mushroom, and bean seeds to produce food items. The highest food value item right now is the beans at plus 60 health. Water and oxygen bottles will refill your gauges completely, regardless of how much is actually left in the gauge. So it doesn't matter if your water gauge is at 50% or 2%, because a water bottle will refill it back to 100% every time. So make the most of your water and oxygen refills by waiting until the last bit of the gauge before refilling. You can craft plenty of water bottles from ice at the beginning, but later on, you'll be able to automate your water collection through different structures. Now, I know the Subnautica vibe of the game may make some of you wonder, but you are wearing a sealed spacesuit, so your oxygen meter will deplete at the same rate in water as it does in open air. Now, to replenish your oxygen the simplest way, just go inside your base or the drop pod at the very beginning and let it refill. The wrecks that you find scattered around the map will not produce oxygen, so you will see your gauge deplete while inside. You really shouldn't be using any oxygen capsules to refill your oxygen unless you are exploring inside a wreck and cannot make it back out in time. The rest of the time, you should be building simple oxygen outposts consisting of a living compartment and a door. The cost for this design is just 3 iron, 2 titanium, and 1 silicon. And with the deconstruction chip, you can break down this base after you refill your oxygen and keep moving, so it's basically an endless oxygen refill. Building bases in Planet Crafter is pretty much the same as games like Subnautica and No Man's Sky. Once you craft the construction chip at the start of the game, you can start building structures using the resources in your backpack. You will also craft the deconstruction chip at the start of the game, which lets you deconstruct structures and recover all of the resources used. So for example, let's say you build a single living compartment and you place down a door. Right now in the game, if you want to remove the door because it's in the wrong spot, you have to deconstruct the entire living compartment. But you do get all of the resources back that you spent on the structure. So just make sure when you are trying to decide on where you want to put a door or a window, you think about it in advance, because if you want to take them out, right now you have no choice but to take the whole thing apart. Base power is different in Planet Crafter from other games like Subnautica and No Man's Sky. Power producing items do not have to have a direct connection to a base. They do not have to be physically attached to a base or wired to the base in order to work. Power is made available wirelessly to all base elements across the map. So you can build a wind turbine in one spot and then build your base 200 meters away and it will still get that power. There is no structural integrity or hull strength mechanics in the game, so you don't have to worry about your base breaking because it doesn't have enough strength. You also don't have to worry about having enough foundation support for something to be there. So you want to build a floating base? Fine, go ahead. Want to build your base underwater? Well, you technically can, but bases are not waterproof in this game, so your base will flood if you build it underwater. Yeah, it's not Subnautica, so sorry. I don't think we're going to have a reason for waterproof bases in this game. Now, to build big bases, you need resources. The resources scattered around the map and embedded in the ground do not despawn, but they also do not respawn. So this piece of magnesium that I am collecting here, once it's collected, it won't come back. It doesn't matter if I walk a certain distance away or if I save and then exit the game to reload that save. These resources do not respawn. However, there are randomized meteor storms which will bring down the basic materials with them, as well as some of the advanced materials. Meteors can hit your base, but will not damage your base components. However, meteors can hit you and hurt quite a bit when they do. Not to worry though, because meteors will spawn with a fixed trajectory based on where you are standing at that given moment. If you're standing still the entire storm, you will not get hit. However, if you're moving around trying to dodge the meteors, then you are actually increasing the likelihood you will cross the path of a meteor and get hit. So either stay inside a base or just stand still outside during a meteor storm. Once you get the launch platform, you can launch rockets in order to summon specific resource meteor storms. Now just know the resources brought down by the summoned meteor storms will despawn when you exit the game. However, the randomized meteor storms are a little different. The basic materials will not despawn until you exit the game. However, some higher level materials such as super alloy will despawn very quickly after the storm is over. Once you unlock the ore extractor, you can place these down to mine resources automatically. There are no resource nodes or mining sites or anything like that. The various caves and certain locations will yield a specific primary resource, such as the iridium in the iridium caves or aluminum in the aluminum fields. The ore extractor will show the primary resource that is being collected for each site in the bottom right. However, all ore extractors will generate the basic materials of cobalt, iron, magnesium, silicon, and titanium in addition to the primary resource. And remember, you can deconstruct items with no loss to materials, so feel free to move your ore extractors around as needed. Currently, there is no limit to the amount of resources you can gain through this method. One important resource to talk about is fabric. Right now, there's no way to craft fabric, so you are limited to what you find in the storage crates scattered around the landscape and the wrecks. So now that you have all these resources coming in to build a big base and do all this elaborate power and everything, let's talk about storage and inventory. At the beginning, you have a small basic backpack and can only build the little blue crates for storage. The blue crates are not stackable, but you can do some interesting arrangements to make sure that you make the most of your floor space. Once you unlock the locker storage, you should switch to using these pretty much entirely, in my opinion. Blue crates give you 15 items worth of storage, and the lockers give you 35 items worth of storage. And of course, make every backpack upgrade as soon as you can to expand the amount of items you can carry with you, both to go build somewhere and coming back from an expedition. You also unlock the recycling machine later, and this actually can be used for storage. Anything put into the recycling machine will be broken back down into its original crafting components with no material loss. So let's say that you used 9 iridium to craft an iridium rod, but then you realize you need some of that iridium back. The recycling machine will break down the iridium rod into the original 9 iridium pieces without losing anything. So you can use this mechanic as a storage method by crafting higher tier items such as super alloy, iridium rods, uranium rods, and so on. And when you need some plain iridium or uranium, just recycle a rod or two. Now, if any of this guide helped you, then be sure to leave me a thumbs up on the video because that helps me out.